With everything going on today, such as the Iran war, the VIX continually facing severe volatility, and just the markets acting kind of wonky in general, I thought it'd be a great time to talk about one of my favorite financial concepts that great investors such as Benjamin Graham, Charlie Munger, and Warren Buffett have all utilized. That, of course, being Mr. Market. Now, for those of you who hearing the term Mr. Market, it's a little bit unfamiliar. That's coming from the intelligent investor. The intelligent investor being almost the holy Bible of the value investing community, written by Warren Buffett's former teacher and great mentor, Benjamin Graham. When it comes to the intelligent investor, Mr. Market out of chapter 8 is, at least for me, probably the single biggest takeaway from the entire book. Really, just the chapter 8 in general, where it talks about market fluctuations. And specifically, it gives kind of a complex topic, such as the stock market. It gives it a really, really simple story that I wanted to try and share with you guys so that you could also utilize some of that in your own investment choices and philosophy. So, to discuss the idea of Mr. Market, we'll of course go with a simple story example. So, let's say that you're moving into a town, right? You've decided you're going to get a house with your family. And you start trying to meet the neighbors, as someone might typically do. And you discover you have a very interesting next door neighbor, that being Mr. Market. Now, what makes Mr. Market so interesting? Well, every single day, for just no real reason at all, he comes up to you and he gives you a cash price that he would pay right that second for your house. Some people might see this as a benefit. Oh, I have a neighbor who's willing to buy my house at any price. Some people are like, why are you harassing me? The point being, he exists. And so you decide to play ball with him. You'll hear him out a couple times. And the further into living into your home you get, you realize that Mr. Market is just all over the place sometimes. Sometimes he gives you what you would consider a fair value. Maybe it's pretty recent and he's starting to give you prices that are pretty close to what you actually paid for the house. And then sometimes he'll look across the street and he'll see, oh, a property over there sold for way, way, way more than anyone thought it would. And so then he'll give you very high ball offers and he'll try and be over optimistic and pay you significantly more than the house is worth. Then, of course, sometimes on the flip side, Mr. Market gives you these weird prices. Maybe he heard something about something in a completely different town. There was a house there that didn't sell well. And now he wants to value your house at the same price as that horrible house, even though there's no relation whatsoever to your property and this property way over there. Typically, what you'll find is that your idea of what your house is worth is vastly different from what Mr. Market is willing to pay on that specific day. And it really does tend to fluctuate. Sometimes there will be months on end or even years where Mr. Market is super optimistic about your home's value and wants to convince you to sell to him. And then sometimes there are chances when Mr. Market is just freaking out about things that are completely unrelated to your home and will panic and try and get you to sell it significantly below what you even paid for the house. This example really does simplify the complex problems of market fluctuations because if you treat your investments like they're a house, right? And your next door neighbor, Mr. Market, is always coming to you. Are you truly going to sell your house at a significant loss just because your next door neighbor told you that, hey, it's so much cheaper now because something happened way over there that's completely unrelated to your property? Of course not. Of course you're not going to listen to him. You're going to be like, oh, there's our weirdo neighbor, Mr. Market. But on the flip side, maybe he comes to you and you have a two-bedroom, two-bath house, and he comes up to you and he's trying to buy it in cash for the price of a mansion that is significantly nicer than your property. You might then decide to play ball with Mr. Market. Overall, the point of this story is to show that inaction typically is the best option. And just because somebody is willing to pay for something right that second doesn't mean you need to oblige them. Instead, there are really two instances when you should play ball with Mr. Market. And that being on the good side, if he's trying to buy your two-bedroom, two-bath house for the price of a 16-bed, 16-bath mansion, and there's just a complete overvaluation there, and you're aware of that, but Mr. Market's throwing cash at you, maybe you then do profit and go buy a better house. That might be a good opportunity to find a house that you're still okay with and keep the extra cash. But on the flip side, if your home property, if there are just ton of hidden problems that just get in the way and it makes it a real nuisance that living in this house is just causing you so much stress and there's horrible things with the property, maybe it is time to consider Mr. Market. Overall, those are the two best reasons to actually act in the market. As I mentioned, this is an idea that great investors have continually pushed, and while the story may differ from different examples, individuals like Warren Buffett will find a way to bring it up all the time, especially in the Berkshire annual meetings. For me, this idea, concept, story, whatever you want to call it, is a way to simplify the market, but also understand some of the ideas behind the whims of what Mr. Market is thinking and really how to take advantage of that in a way. Now, applying this to the actual stock market, which of course this is trying to show through a simple example, right? In times where Mr. Market is overly fearful and he's trying to sell at prices that are significantly below any estimates of fair value, intrinsic value, whatever you're trying to use, those should be the times you want to act. And then on the flip side, when there's a bunch of hype, a bunch of mania, Mr. Market's very greedy and optimistic, those are the times you should consider selling. And I know that sounds really simple to do in practice, but you would be shocked at how many people flip those immediately. It surprises me every single year when the Wall Street Journal will put out an article showing that in bad weeks of the stock market, people put significantly less money into their retirement, or bad months or bad years. Whereas in really, really good years where the prices are super inflated, that's when everyone's pouring money into their retirement accounts. Instead, if you were thinking about this logically, that should be flipped almost, but it truly isn't. Additionally, when it comes to just riding in the river versus continually acting at the whims of Mr. Market, a sane individual shouldn't just act on something because, and going back to the simplified example, their neighbor's telling them something. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of very, very interesting neighbors over the years. And if I had a neighbor like this who's continually throwing random prices just out at whims, I would very rarely consider at all acting upon them. And yet, most people fall into that trap. They feed into the cycle of endless news, endless flashing lights, red or green. They fall into that cycle, and then it kind of forces action out of them. Even sane individuals who you'd think, oh, they'd have more patience than this. The game is designed for you to not have patience. It's a very different game from paper shares and reading newspapers for your things to now all the information you want at your fingertips. And this, of course, this gamification almost has completely changed holding period time. So now averages go from like 3 years in the 1960s to just a few months today. And that really does kind of push a bad narrative because that means people are continually acting upon the words and wisdom of Mr. Market, more like the whims of Mr. Market. And this is a great way to deplete wealth, not generate wealth. Now, if you yourself, right, are able to take a story like this, and it could be any other example, and simplify the markets in a way, right? And think about this from an intuitive way, where again, everybody says buy low, sell high. But most individuals don't do that. They say that, or maybe they start out doing that, and then they get caught into the whims of Mr. Market. If you are able to break free from that, right? Not only are you going to avoid all the potential pitfalls your portfolio could go through by constant action out of fear, right? But you'll also generate a lot more wealth by using the fear and greed example, acting greedy in times when people are fearful, right? And fearful in times when people are greedy. That is the best approach that you can utilize with your own investments. And again, all of this sounds so simple and so easy, and yet it's just not for the majority of people. And so it was really important for me to try and provide my interpretation of this story in the hopes that other people can learn from it and utilize it in their own investments because it'll make them so much better off than just freaking out anytime the market has a whim. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate if you liked or potentially considered subscribing to my channel. I try and put out educational content that mostly centers around investing, but sometimes broader to the finance sector as a whole. I try and put out a quality video about once a week, and I'd really appreciate all your support. So thank you so much.